Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You got me, as always, Andrew O'Hara, joined with me, Wes Hilliard. And before we get into the episode, this episode is brought to you by Zocdoc. More on them in a bit. Wes, how you doing this week?
Pretty good. Andrew and I just had a heated argument over AI, so too bad this isn't the podcast for that. You'll have to go hear me rant about it on Apple Insider. But yeah, doing great this week. Pretty happy to be here doing the show today, and it looks like we got a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about. It's been a crazy week. There's news dropping. Harrison actually had yet another surgery this week, so recuperating from that. We also had... I am a little bummed about this. This is not smart home related, but I am bummed, Wes, because I did a video on the Apple Insider YouTube. It's in the description if you want to go watch it. I was so excited about it, and like view time was really, like, the duration viewed was longer. It was like way up. Comment and interaction way up. Users liking it way up. And it did terrible. Like, it bombed so hard in terms of actual viewership. I'm bummed. I was really bummed. It was the one on like vintage Apple tech.
It's a hard one to pitch, right? Like, how do you make the pitch? How do you make the title, the image? Like, everything about this particular video is definitely a tough eye catcher for sure.
Yeah, so I was bummed. So if anyone's interested in watching video about some vintage Apple tech and sharing your own stories on you getting into the Apple ecosystem and boosting the views by a little bit, because I would like to do another one. And I actually had a couple people who reach out who were like in the Apple supply chain, and they're like, hey, why didn't you say you're doing a video like that? I could source you some really cool vintage Apple stuff that people haven't seen. And I would love to do a version 2 or part 2 of that, but I'm going to need this to have a long tail and people to watch it for that to happen. So if you're all interested, go check that out on the Apple Insider YouTube. But getting into the actual smart home tech for this week, Aqara, they have officially launched their new motion and light sensor P2. So this is their updated version. It's their original motion sensor, not their present sensor. This has thread built in this time. So that's the big differentiation. Is I believe the other one was like Zigbee connected to their hub. The new one is directly thread, and it's matter over thread as well. So you could use this completely by itself without the Aqara app, or you can tie to the Aqara app and get some more features and stuff that you can tie into it. But it is battery powered, detection up to 7 meters, 170 degrees horizontal coverage, 2-year battery on that, by the way. But basically an updated version of their motion sensor. So if you're looking for a new motion sensor, built-in matter over thread, which I love to see here, that is now available. What do you think, Wes? Any thoughts on that guy?
I mean, it's useful to have motion sensors in certain areas because while they're built into certain things like cameras, I think like the EcoFlow, what is that thing called? Ecobee, the thermostat has like built-in motion sensors and stuff like that. But there are going to be dead zones in your home where maybe you want to do an automation. Even something as simple as opening a closet door and having a light turn on can be accomplished with these guys, and that's useful. The present sensor is definitely more interesting as far as I'm in my office and I want the lights to turn off if I'm not in my office. The motion sensors, if you don't move from your computer desk, eventually your lights are going to turn off anyway. So different applications for different things. But yeah, it's nice to have, and having it on thread is useful as well.
The big difference is the fact that the present sensor are way more accurate. You can do way more. Like, I mean, we talked about it when we reviewed it, how you can create virtual present sensors within one, like creating different zones that will show up as different present sensors in the home app. And you can have each of them triggering different scenes and automations. It's wild. But that one is like $80, $90, whereas this one is launching for like $30, $35. It's right. Less than half the price. So there's a big difference in terms of what you're going to get there.
It's easier to swallow putting one of those in a closet than a $200 present sensor, right?
Exactly. Looking at some of the competition stuff, this is interesting, but Google has launched its Find My network. This has been a big thing coming for a while. So I wanted to kind of just touch on some of the basics of this.
Very cleverly named Google Find My Devices. They added one word to the end to differentiate it. Yeah.
so different.
Mm-hmm.
This, of course, is very similar to the Apple Find My, and I believe Google and Apple actually worked a bit together on this because they have to create like the alerts for when someone is tracking you and you get those like pop-ups and everything. So there was a little bit of cohesion there in that regard. Of course, we're going to see a lot of similar players. So Chipolo, Pebblebee, and many of the others are launching trackers for the Google Find My network, and I believe they're going to be co-certified to be able to buy one device that would work on Google Find My or Apple Find My. What I don't know, Wes, is if you have like a family member that uses Android, will they be able to, and you have like, because you can share devices too in both Apple Find My and Google Find My devices. I wonder if you can share that device across platforms or if you have to stick in one ecosystem or the other. So I don't know.
I think that depends on the device maker, right? Like, I'm sure now we'll see a Pixel tag at some point, but an Apple AirTag, you can only share to iPhone. Apple still hasn't opened up that side of things.
No, but like Chipolo and Pebblebee have devices that are co-certified.
Well, that's kind of my example is like looking at AirTag and how you share it across Apple devices. That's how that works. I think with split ecosystem devices, as long as they are able to manage that functionality, I think they'll be able to do cross-system, because I don't think there's anything that prevents them from being paired to an Android and an iPhone device. Now, pairing them to more than one Find My network is impossible, because the Find My network would say, oh, this already belongs to the Find My network, but it doesn't belong to the Find My devices network. So I think
But I want to know I think it's more on the Apple and Google sides, because I want to be able to put in like my friends, I want to put in my neighbor John, I want to put in his email address to share something with. He's on Android using the Google Find My, and I'm on Apple Find My. We're sharing a device like a Chipolo tracker that works with both. Right. I want to share it with him and show that it's shared. I don't think that will work. I think he would have to independently pair it, but now we're not sharing. So you can't share across the networks.
The ecosystem cohesion here. So the thing that Apple and Google worked on was the detection side of things. So Google actually already had this network ready to go about, honestly, 6 months to a year ago. They were going to release it, and it was going to be this thing where it's basically Find My but Google, where every Android device acts as a beacon that can communicate Bluetooth low energy, basically saying, you know, there's a tag nearby, an Android phone, it's able to update the Google network. Just identical to Apple Find My, but they did not release it because there was some conversation, I guess, engineering side that said, hey, let's get this cooperating between each other before we release. So Apple and Google engineers worked together on a single tracking service that would be able to be implemented in iOS and Android. So the only connection the two ecosystems have is if you're using an iPhone, you're going to get the alerts for non-Find My ecosystem. So you're going to get Find My Google or Find My devices, Google's ecosystem, alerts on iPhone saying a tracker is nearby. I'm going to help you find it. You click that notification, and it'll basically run through different frequencies and ranges that different trackers have used. The list is going to be updated all the time, which ones they're looking for. So even if there's new manufacturers or new devices, they're not going to be able to sneak around this theoretically. And so on iPhone or Android, you'll get that pop up. You'll be able to find the tracker and discover maybe who it belongs to using NFC or whatever attachments there are to that device. So you can get rid of a tracking device that's following you around. It's the same thing as if you have a spouse with an AirTag that you're not sharing, and they leave it in your car. It'll pop up on your iPhone that there's an AirTag tracking you all day. It's the same thing, just for non-Apple Find My system. So that'll be nice. It'll solve a lot of problems, and that goes for Android too.
There should be more cohesion here, because Apple already has like that Find My, like the tracker finding app for Android. But like Google, you can mark an item as lost, similar as you can in Find My. You shouldn't need to download an extra app on Android. You should be able to use the Google Find My app to identify an AirTag and see its message and all of that stuff.
That's the system that's the system they've developed. So you don't have to download a separate app. The Android system that they had before was an app in the Play Store that you downloaded, and you had to actively say, I think I'm being tracked. Can you find a tracker for me? And it would look for an AirTag and pop up and see if it found one. Now it's happening by itself in the background. The same way AirTag works on, like I said, on iPhone. You don't have to do anything. You just get a notification saying there's an AirTag or tracker following you around. It happens if someone's AirPods are in the car with you, disconnected from their device.
But I'm not talking about the find. I'm talking about identifying a lost one.
I think that's part of it.
You mark it as lost. Separate things. I'm not talking about one that's just following you around, and it like pops up and alerts you. I'm saying I lost my wallet.
You get the
message. Put it into lost mode, and you find it, and like, oh, whose is this? And you can tap it, and it pops up and says, this is this person's. You can identify those things, and it happens both.
Yeah, they can't guarantee
like Apple does it and Google does it. But it's a standard, and they've already worked together on the finding part. I'm saying Google should be able to do this too. Apple should be able to do this. I should be able to identify a Google product, because that's the whole point, is getting it back to the owner. I should be able to identify a Google one, and Google should be able to identify an Apple Find My device. They've already worked on tracking them, and that standard. That should be a thing.
I think that's a manufacturer detail, less than an Apple Google thing. Like you said, I think the system,
it's part of Find My.
Yeah, the software and everything's already there, and I do believe that this, if I remember reading it correctly, it does let you identify trackers. It's just up to the tracker manufacturer to make sure that works cross-platform. The tracking detection works cross-platform, but I don't know that it automatically lets you read the details of the tracker cross-platform without implementation by the developer, but that's something I'd have to look into.
It's definitely on the Google and Apple side, because they're
the
supporting
individual
the
ecosystems can do it. Yes,
but they can't identify each other, is what I'm saying.
That's what I agree. Like, I don't know. I think they can if the manufacturer allows it, but I'm not sure about that. That's something
I don't think it's on the manufacturer, though. I think it's on the Google and the Apple side to be able to pick up that device on the street and tap it and identify it.
It'd be nice to be able to do that. Yeah.
They also support the offline finding for the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro or Pixel Pro, which is similar to what Apple has with Find My on iPhones. And this is a feature that Apple should totally steal. It can tell you a device's location relative to a Nest speaker. So I would love to be able to think, where's my wallet? And Apple's assistant comes back like, oh, it's spotted in the living room. And Apple could even do this with Apple TVs as well. But just whatever device it is closest to, it should be able to tell you that relative location. I think that is
Alexa did something
feature.
Like this a while ago as well. Like Amazon. Yeah. Like this sounds familiar.
A word you don't speak on this podcast. There's people, speakers right now being like, what?
There's no safe word for Amazon's device. You have to like say 15. Amazon Smart Speaker Assistant device.
But there isn't for Apple's either. I used to be able to just say
That's true.
SIRI. I could say the word.
It blows the world up.
Hey, first, and it was fine. But now Apple got rid of that prompting phrase, and it's just the word. And now I can't say it either. So Apple Assistant and Amazon Assistant and Google Assistant, which is actually what it's called.
Speaking of randomly of Find My stuff, have you used the Find My Remote feature yet for Apple TV?
I have.
It's surprisingly good. It's
not having the U1, it is surprisingly good. I still think it needs a speaker. I don't understand why they just didn't build that speaker in. I was even at my friend's house, and he's using the Find My thing, and he's like looking all over his couch because we had a child party there, and some sort of, maniacal toddler had hidden the remote under the coffee table. And he is just like looking everywhere, trying to find it. And it was not helpful enough. Like he got to like the location, but could not track it down. And
which part of the couch is it in? Right. Yeah. Like you don't know. Yeah. It gets you because it's 3 feet from it.
Exactly. We have some Qi 2 stuff to talk about and a coffee device to talk about that I am excited for. But before we do, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor for the episode, Zocdoc. This has been such a life-changing app for me. I use it every time that I need to go into a doctor that is not like my regular doctor, especially if you have something specific or special. Maybe your son has glaucoma and you need to be able to track down a doctor that takes your insurance that's within range and is actually highly rated. Zocdoc would be a great app to be able to use that for. I love the fact that you can verify that they take your insurance before you step foot in any doctor's office. I also love that you can book appointments remotely and do telehealth appointments too. Even better because you don't even have to leave your house when you're sick. And I know my wife has used it. She went into a local one because she had to go get like something checked out, and she was just able to book it online, and she walked in there and there's all these people who are walk-ins that are staring and grimacing at her because she just bypassed them all when she walked in the door, didn't have to be around other sick people and possibly contract some other sickness. She just walked right back, walked to the doctor. She was in the waiting room for like 30 seconds. It worked out so incredibly well. We are getting into the spring. Hopefully everyone's getting through all their winter sniffles and everything else. But if you have kids, I'm sure you'll know that you'll find something else to deal with. But so many things that you can use Zocdoc for. I think it is a fantastic app. And best of all, it is free. So if you want, this is what you should do. Zocdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. So go to Zocdoc.com/HKI and download the Zocdoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/HKI. ZocDoc.com/HKI. So, Wes, we got some Qi2 stuff to talk about again. ESR has launched their Qi2 lineup. We knew this was coming because everyone said it was going to be like springtime, and now they're all kind of coming through the floodgates.
Right.
ESR, I think, already had their car charger. I think this was already out. They claim it was the first Qi2 car charger. This thing, they're just kind of retouting it, but it's $30 and it's on 10% discount if you're looking for a Qi2 car charger. I like theirs quite a bit, and they include like there's multiple mounts in the box, so you can like put it on the dash, connect to a vent. Got options. But the new ones, their 3-in-1 is now available. Comes in both black and white. Has a portable Apple Watch charger. It's connected on the back and just pulls out. It's USB-C. Fast charging for the Apple Watch. This thing is $72.99, 10% discount code 2 for here at launch. And then they have coming up a foldable travel charger. This looks really neat. It folds completely flat, has a removable little USB-C Apple Watch puck as well. This comes out in May. So if you're looking for a travel one, they do have a regular Qi version now that's like magnetic, but they have a specifically Qi2 fast charging version coming out in May. What do you think of these guys, Wes?
Well, as always, more options are great. I like that Qi2 is kind of getting out there and giving us an alternative to Apple's MagSafe. I still wonder if we're going to see Apple try to buff up its MagSafe offering with more exclusive features. So I don't know, maybe that's a WWDC thing. But for now, Qi2 gives you the option of just plastering your home with chargers or your vehicle. And that can take advantage of things like standby, which is nice because, again, it doesn't even have to be a magnetic charger. You can plug in your phone and get standby. But no, this is cool. I like the idea of the travel charger. Again, more is better. There's a million different foldables out there that can fold flat to fit in a bag. Pick the one that fits you best. And ESR makes some pretty quality stuff. So again, happy to finally see all this rolling out.
I don't think there's any that are Qi2 that are foldable.
Right. Yeah, the one I have, I think, is it's the 7.5 watt system. But yeah, it's nice to see them entering this space. And again, competition's good. Maybe the other foldable charger people start working on that as well.
We also have an update from Mophie. We talked about it because they announced it already, but their 3-in-1 is now on sale. So if you want to pick this up, this one's $129.95, so a bit more expensive. Fast charging Apple Watch, 5 watts for your AirPods. It's got a tiltable top there. And they also are using up to 50% PCR, which I think is always a good thing. That's post-consumer recycled plastics in their devices. The thing is, they say up to 50%. I prefer just saying companies, when you give me a minimum, if you say up to, you can be 1%, you could be 0%. Right. And sure, it could be up to 50%, but it's not. So I would prefer like minimum of 30% and up to 50%. So we at least know there's some, recycled materials in there, because I do think that it makes a difference. So Just throwing that out there.
We had a joke in the military, in the nuke field, I guess, about how one thing would always mention that it would travel at the fraction of a speed of light, but everything travels at a fraction of the speed of light, so it's not a very useful metric. So up to is another one of those, like you said, it can literally be anything between 0 and 50s. Just kind of funny.
Right, it's like when you see a movie and it's like inspired by a true story. Yeah. And like
they got the title from the book. That's the only thing they got inspired by.
I could see, I was delivered a set of boneless buffalo wings at Applebee's, and that inspired me to think of the next spy thriller. Like, it has nothing to do with one another, but it inspired it. And it's filler words that don't do
marketing.
Enough, I would love to see that. I know. Okay. So this is still in the smart home space. I'm still staying it is. And I am a big coffee person. Faith recently got me for my birthday. She was in Seattle and she came back with one of my favorite coffees, which is the Starbucks Reserve, like whiskey aged coffee beans. And they're so good, but they're expensive. And then they're even better as a cold brew because you got like those like vanilla notes in there. But when you make cold brew, you use like twice as many beans as regular coffee. So it gets even more expensive to do it that way. But one of my favorite companies for coffee products is Bello. So like I have their bean grinder, I have their canisters for storing coffee so that it stays like super fresh. I have their pour over and I have their French press, like all of it. Well, now I guess they are launching. It's called the Aiden Precision Coffee Maker. So this is a fancy, smart, connected coffee maker that looks really cool. It's super sleek, minimalistic. It's really nice. It's like just kind of like a cube looking, and there's like this little colorful LED in the top left hand corner to give you feedback on what it's doing, brewing, sitting there, whatever. But yeah, they say it makes pour over quality coffee from more of a larger brewer versus making 1 or 2 cups. It can make much more than that. And as far as why we're talking about it on a specifically smart home podcast, this does have connected features. So it is Bluetooth to your phone. You can schedule it through your phone. You can control how much exactly you're making. So if you're making like 1 cup or if you're making 10 cups, you can also control it like from your bed. So like I could put beans in this. I could put it in. I wake up in the morning, press a button, and by the time that I get out into the kitchen, my coffee is ready to go. Also love that. I do wish this would be built into shortcuts. That would be awesome because I'd love to say a good morning scene and have this kick on. So maybe they'll see this and they'll be like, hey, we could add shortcut support. That would be great. So yeah, you can create brew profiles, all this kind of cool stuff. But yeah, I don't know how much you're into coffee, Wes, if this is like a thing that you get all excited about, but like there's so many granular things for people really big into coffee, like your exact brew temperature, your brew ratios, how long your bloom is on the coffee. Like you can set the bloom temperature specifically, the time between pulses, number of pulses, all these things. It's a fairly expensive, but also not terribly expensive, I would say. I think this is a fair price for one of their products.
You get what you pay
for.
Yeah, this is definitely a quality looking product. It looks like it says it ships in September if you order now, so it's still pre-sale time. It looks cool. I mean, I definitely like the idea of adding some technology to coffee. It reminds me of, and my relationship with coffee is basically I drink coffee. I was in the Navy, so of course, if you're in any kind of the military, but I think especially the Navy, coffee becomes your best friend. You drink some of the worst stuff on planet Earth, so I can honestly drink any kind of coffee now. None of it is dark enough to hurt me. Straight out of the pot without any added sugar or cream. It actually kind of hurts me when I see people just pour a gallon of milk in their glass of espresso, and it's just, what are you doing? But no, this definitely looks really interesting as far as things go. I still use pods. I have a Keurig, and I've been thinking about maybe changing to a different coffee system And this one's definitely intriguing as far as getting better flavor and adding some technology to the mix. But what I was going to say is it reminds me of the anecdote years ago. Tim Cook was in an interview, and I think someone asked him what smart home things he did every day. And part of his morning routine was asking like his assistant to make a cup of coffee. And to this day, coffee is not in HomeKit. And this, I think, was like 2016 or something. Like coffee makers and appliances like that are not in HomeKit. So I don't know why, because it seems like the CEO's interested anyway. But the way he did it, I'm 100% certain, is he bought the dumbest, like $40 coffee maker on the market that automatically starts brewing when you plug it into the wall. So he had a smart switch connected to it and was able to turn it on and have it start brewing. Interesting, cool that he could do that, but I like that this one's a little bit smarter than that. I just wish it had some Apple integrations, like you said. Maybe they'll do some shortcuts, or you'll be able to do something cool with it.
You definitely need one, like you need a dumb one. I believe I did a whole thing with this, and I think I even got it to work with like a Smeg coffee maker. But yeah, you need one with basically what you're looking for is a physical switch on the front. And that's what turns it on and off. And as long as it does that, you can make it work. I actually did a video, it was like 2 years ago now. I'll throw it in the show notes for anyone who was curious, on how to make a smart coffee maker with HomeKit. But I'm surprised this even hasn't been, maybe I'm missing it, but I don't even think this has been added to the Matter spec yet. And this would be such an easy thing to add to Matter.
There's so many, and again, a coffee maker is basically an on-off switch. Okay, I don't need to go into HomeKit and set up my brewing recipe, right? Leave that to the app. But having it brew or not brew is an on-off switch. Just like turning on and off a fan. The same thing with pet feeders. I don't need to weigh my cats in HomeKit, right? With a smart litter box. I don't need it to tell me how many times a day it eats out of the food bowl, right? With like pet feeders, I would love to see the cameras and pet feeders added to HomeKit Secure Video. I would love to see me able to hit a button, again, an on-off switch. But why is that not supported in HomeKit? Or are these technology companies just not wanting to make a dumb switch added to HomeKit? Is that just too much overhead? Would Fellow even know what HomeKit is, right? The engineers there, do they even care? So there's probably ways to cheat and get these things in the system. I've seen devices kind of wiggle their way into HomeKit without having any reason to be there. But there's so many things happening in the home that are semi-smart, some kind of intelligence that would be cool to have as part of HomeKit. And we discussed this in the last episode, but with Apple exiting the car and having a more focus on the home, I hope we see more attention go to the home and branch out, because there's so much more to the home than turning on and off lights or setting your air conditioning thermostat. This is getting philosophical, but I think of the home as all your devices, not just your televisions. I would love to open the bathroom room in Apple Home and see the charge level on my smart toothbrush, right? Just silly stuff like that. Like, have everything in there. Maybe we'll get there someday, but for now, you can get your fancy coffee maker and use an app to turn it on, I suppose.
I mean, I just think it'd be an easy thing to add to shortcuts that could be built into scenes, but I do think that it makes sense as just a basic appliance type to be able to add in. And similar to robot vacuum cleaners, where there's a lot of granular details that kind of need to be sorted out, but it can be done in the manufacturer app. I would basically need to be like turn on and off, and how many cups could be the simplest thing that I would like to be able to see in HomeKit. And I could just say, Apple Assistant, brew 2 cups of coffee. Done.
I think the Home app is a good utility for what it is, but it definitely feels neglected in a way that, like, okay, they came out with the new design, which is similar to the old design, but it is better. I do like that you can select environment cues or light cues at the top and switch over to different devices. That has actually been very useful. I use that a lot, but that's an app implementation. We haven't seen a technology implementation change, like what you can add to HomeKit, in years. What was the last thing that Apple added as a new device category to HomeKit? Do you remember?
It really has been a couple years. Now, technically, it's Matter because we're going to get the new device types in 1.2. But
and iOS 18 in the fall.
I mean, and Apple will probably not add anything else. Apple probably will not add any exclusive HomeKit devices. Everything here on out to add to HomeKit will probably be through Matter.
But then the interface and the Home app needs to update to allow for those new devices. So even if they don't directly call out as HomeKit support, do they not need to add icons and widgets for?
No, of course they do. Apple
has vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. I'm just saying Apple won't add any HomeKit devices, right? Because things like I'm trying to think of a specific device, but I mean routers, I guess, which is a terrible example, but it's a HomeKit device, right? It can only be added to HomeKit. It can't be added to Matter. I don't think Apple is going to add any more HomeKit device categories. They're only going to support what's in Matter.
So you're saying it's going to be now. HomeKit's no longer going to be a device category of you must buy a HomeKit device. It's going to be more of a underlying technology that communicates between Matter. It's a an implementation layer between Matter and Apple that brings Matter into your Apple Home app, and that's all HomeKit's for. It's no longer a like back in the day, you would have to have a light bulb fully encrypt its traffic over the network in order to be a HomeKit device. Like that's no longer part of the implementation detail. It's purely a layer of software that gets it to interact with the Home app. Is that what you're saying?
Not at all. I think HomeKit as it stands now will still exist. You can still use HAP, which is the HomeKit accessory protocol, to create devices. I'm saying Apple, I don't think, is going to create any new HomeKit only device categories. Because
that makes sense.
Maybe a wireless charger.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think Apple is going to do that because
they're not going to do something that isn't in Matter. Yeah, they're not going to do something that isn't in Matter. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, that is what I'm saying because there's technically HomeKit ones that aren't in Matter, but I don't think there'll be any more of those.
Right.
We're going to get new device categories as they're added to Matter. I think we'll see coffee machines eventually.
We're barking up the wrong tree.
Stuff in one too.
We need to be going to the Matter the Matter group and say, hey. You need to add these
technically,
things.
Apple is part of the CSA, so we can still yell at Apple because the reason why, because Apple is part of Matter, part of the CSA. So why would Apple create its own thing and then have to go and turn around and also do it inside of the CSA?
Well, you say that
it would just do it with the CSA.
But that's what happened with Lightning. They helped them create USB-C and then came out with a Lightning charger a year before USB-C was ready. I thought that is kind of funny though. Different Apple, different times.
That's true. And that's a whole other, can of worms. That's still such a good charger that has so many other issues going on with it in USB-C. It's just still a mess. I hate how wiggly USB-C chargers are.
Yeah.
So often. And Lightning feels was so strong.
Right. This, not to go too far tangent, but this is, I think, applicable. Like you said, USB-C chargers are all over the place. You never know what version you're getting. When you plug it in, it is wiggly. It's not as secure. It doesn't feel as quality. It's the difference between one size fits all and having a bespoke suit, right? And like the Lightning connector, as many problems as it has and as weird as it is, you have to have your own specific charger for your iPhone or whatever. It always worked. It worked well, and you knew what you were getting when you were plugging it in. It was definitely the tailored suit of chargers, and then the USB-C is very much a one size fits all. It kind of works, and just make sure you read the label before you put it on because you have no idea what you're getting. It's a very different system, and I hope Matter doesn't turn into that. I understand it needs to be one size fits all, but I miss the days when Apple first announced, they were announcing so many new protocols. I don't know what it was, but between like 2014 and 2017 or so, there was MagSafe and HomeKit and all of these things that were coming out that just felt like, man, Apple's really covering so many bases. I don't know what happened to that drive because it fell off a cliff. It's gone. They haven't announced anything new in software in these spaces in so long. That I just wonder what's happening over there. Did they close all the doors and invite the engineers over to build robot vacuums? I'm not sure what they're doing.
Who knows? Priority shift, and we'll have to see. One thing I keep thinking about, we had, because we talked about in the vintage video that I did, the vintage Apple Tech video, we talked a lot about HomeKit routers. And next thing I knew, there was a ton of comments about why Apple ditched the router space. There's people on Twitter like, why did Apple get out of the router space? And I might do an actual dedicated video on what happened with Apple routers, what happened to the HomeKit secure routers that don't really exist, Matter routers that are coming, and why Apple it would be great if Apple made actual routers again for the home. So if
it would be one of the
in
fastest
that,
purchases I ever made. I would immediately purchase that product if they announced it. Wouldn't even have to think about it. It just makes sense.
Here's my only concern with it would probably ever be Apple was never fast with Wi-Fi standard adoptions.
We'd be Wi-Fi 6E until 2030. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, it would have to, if it was now, it would have to be Wi-Fi 7, and Wi-Fi 7 is such a beastly upgrade in terms of performance that it would last for many, many years compared to like 6E was really nothing over Wi-Fi 6. So like I would get it from that point of view, but yeah, that would be my only hesitation. Like I'd buy into that ecosystem and like Wi-Fi 7 or Wi-Fi 8 comes out and we'd have to wait 2 years for Apple to update their freaking routers, let alone their products to support it. But
I think the biggest problem with Apple today, a decade ago, just all time, is they still act like that tiny startup that barely beat out of bankruptcy in 1996 and rose from the ashes, and they still behave that way. And that's great for certain things. Certain products benefit from that mentality. Certain ideologies from the company benefit from them acting like they're always fighting for their life. But I do wish sometimes that Apple could at least, I don't know, section off a piece of the company and say, okay, you behave like you're $1 trillion company with money to spend. Go hire some people, build some products, do some things and then we'll have this section over here that builds iPhones and Vision Pro, and we're going to pretend like we're going bankrupt tomorrow every time we open the doors. Like if they could just have that separated in some way, because there's so many parts of the company that feel like it's languishing because they feel like they have to prioritize the money makers. And it's like, you can prioritize the money makers, but you have enough money to do both. So just do both. And Apple never seems to take that path. And that can be frustrating for HomeKit users, because again, what's Apple really doing in this space besides beautifying the app? I mean, we haven't really seen anything change about HomeKit in such a long time. I understand implementing Matter and Thread was important, but again, what changed?
Look at the size of Apple, right? I mean, they are one of the biggest companies in the world. I had heard, this is, hearsay of hearsay, but I had heard from a device manufacturer that the HomeKit team was like somewhere between like 5 and 20 people. Like that was it.
And that's fine. But what are they, so let me take it to video games, because that's what I have a good reference point on. Call of Duty takes 600 people at a minimum, and that's not including the team for Call of Duty can get up to 1,000 people if you count everyone involved. But just like the base team that makes the game doing the code, like 500 people. Call of Duty's fine. All right, don't let me get after Call of Duty, but it's honestly mediocre. Fine. It feeds the right vessels to making a bunch of money. Right. It's like a blockbuster movie. You go get popcorn, you sit down, you're not expecting a masterpiece, right? But then you get a team, No Man's Sky, for example. I think they're a team of under 10 people, and they make this. Excuse the launch and everything that was a problem at the start, but again, they make this game that's just this huge crazy idea, right? Sells all these copies. They're still going strong years later. I think that was 2016 to today, and that same game is still getting developed by Hello Games. They made The Last Campfire, and these are, from my perspective, artistic masterpieces in the realm of video games, and it only took a handful of people to make. So I wouldn't say team size is that important unless you just need to make more of something, right? Sometimes you can throw bodies at a problem and make it go faster. HomeKit maybe isn't that. So I'll take a team of 10, 15 people, but is Apple not letting them do what they want them to do because they're worried about breaking the system that they already have? I think it needs to work. I don't want to open my home app and have everything break down. So focusing on stability is very important, but where is even 10% of the risk? Where is the ideas? Where is the innovation in that space that, again, that entered this space? HomeKit it wasn't a novel idea. Amazon and other people were doing similar, but there was such innovation in the space and how Apple handled it. And then it's as if they stopped touching it after they introduced it. And I just wonder what they're doing with that team of people. If they have a dedicated team of people, it should be moving forward, not standing still. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think team size is important. Like, I'm not saying they need to make it 100 people and do something crazy.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it is still because those are the people who are still certifying products. Like, you have to send things in and go through a whole certification process. So
there should be a certification team, a development team, a QA team, right? No, I get what you mean. Like a design team.
I mean, we have complained about on the show, and I'm not going to be a naysayer, and I'm not going to, because I know we had a comment that were like, oh, we talk a lot about what we wish Apple would do. We already did that with the routers.
Or we're too negative. Well, I'm not being negative.
One of our
I'm just
lowest hanging fruits that Apple could add is like cameras.
Mm-hmm.
First off, the camera support for detection isn't great. It's locally processed, which is good, but it's not great, and it doesn't seem like it's been updated in years to get any better. But on top of that, you can't trigger automations off of these things.
Right.
So you're already sitting there and be like, I can detect a human. And then on your other hand, you're like, I cannot detect a human. I can only tell if there's motion. Like, why aren't those talking to each other? It seems like there's really low-hanging fruit that could be added that would just be huge quality of life improvements, and we're not seeing it. So I agree with you. I don't know why it seems too stagnant.
Yeah, as we wrap up the show, I want to mention, it's not that we're being down on Apple. We're not being negative, Nancy's what, because I've seen that comment too of just like, why are you guys always so negative about things? You should be happy. It's not negativity, so to speak. We are passionate about this product and this ecosystem, and we want to see it grow. So we're going to be more critical of it. We use it every day. It's a part of our lives, and we're so close to it. We're going to see the flaws. We spent half the show talking about how great products are, right? And how much we enjoy the ecosystem for MagSafe and HomeKit and all of these things that we discuss on the show. But we're not going to be fanboys here and just worship the ground Apple walks on. Their mistakes are made. Things need to be improved. And pointing those things out isn't necessarily a negativity. We love these products. We wouldn't be using them in our homes if we didn't trust them and use them every day. So I just want to point out, just because we're being critical of something doesn't mean we dislike it. I'm not going to switch to Google or Amazon home products, which languish in their own way, honestly. Apple, I think, is still the best implementation especially from a privacy standpoint. I wouldn't go anywhere else. So I just want them to do better and do more with the money that they obviously have. It would be different if we were talking about the struggling near bankrupt company in 1996, but we're talking about the largest company in the world with a $3 trillion market cap. I think they can hire some people. And it's not about, oh no, they need small teams with incredible talent and they only hire the best. Sure. But there's plenty of those people that exist in the world. I don't think there's a shortage of talented engineers out there. I just think Apple plays it too safe, and I think they need to allow a little bit more wiggle room in the way they develop things and the way they introduce stuff. I don't want them to become Google, because I think the difference between Apple and Google is Google introduces things every day and then kills something every day. And that's a problem. We just need to meet in the middle.
Protect was just killed off.
Yeah. They just got rid of their VPN thing, and like the Google VPN that comes with your paid program or whatever. Like go look at Google killedbygoogle.com. There's a whole graveyard of things that they announce and cancel year to year. Apple doesn't do that, and that's great. But I would be okay with a couple of failed projects, right? Like, you don't have to. I think Apple's winning streak is a blessing and a curse, because they do tend to release things that work out and do great. There's not many failures you can point to and say, this is bad, never do that again. The butterfly keyboard is a rare example. But like, make more mistakes, be okay with those mistakes, own up to them, but don't kill people with your mistakes. Just be willing to say, we need to take this back to the drawing board. But I think because of Apple's scale, they're worried that if they do something and they do it 10% less than what they do now, that there's going to be lawsuits. And I think that is the problem with a company so big. So I'm not sure what the solution here is. there are people smarter at Apple than me working on these things. I can figure it out, and I think they just need to meet in the middle. There's things they can do to do more, do better, but still stay stable. They can meet in the middle there, I think.
Absolutely. So that about wraps up for today. That was a lot of stuff to talk about. We went a bit on tangents a little bit, so I hope everyone hung in there with us. If you want, you can follow me. Everything's in the show notes. You can follow Wes over on Mastodon. If you want to see the video of this, see my new Basic Apple Guy t-shirt that I'm rocking this week, his new 2024 Command
that's
series.
a good one.
Yeah, so I got new tea coming out today. But you can go to youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Give us 5, 10, 100-star ratings on your podcast app of choice, which is not Google Podcast anymore because that's gone. But otherwise, we'll catch you guys in the next episode.